All of the soul, the wedding card of Oliver and Mia had arrived. Jack, Colonel, David, John, and Andy were called with great insistence. Oliver's father and Oliver himself had come to call, and on their insistence, the colonel had said yes at that time. But now he was not ready to go in any way. Currently, there was no particular reason to forbid it. John was insisting on walking again and again. Some annoyance was also ready. Jack was completely silent. Jack remembered everything from the last time, and now he would have preferred death over the displeasure of Colonel David. Ever since they started living together, both of them had become accustomed to him, and many pleasant changes had taken place in them too. What he used to just smile at was now becoming a reality. Both of them were understood to a great extent. Sometimes they would fight so hard that they felt they would have to make amends. It was just a few days ago. He had brought a citizen's card in his. John had agreed to come immediately on the insistence of Bade, while it was clear from Andy's expression that he wanted to refuse. The colonel also knew what the reason was, so he also tried to avoid it, but finally he had to say yes, and as soon as he left, John said to Andy and him, "You should leave this job and run a grocery store," he said seriously. "Why?" "My father was in the police, and so was my grandfather. The grocery store was yours, so do it yourself. If you were a grocery store, there would be experience." They were still thinking who to scold. Yes, I am a drinker, and you are the bearer of great justice. Andy also said more rudely than before that you have good looks. Don't you try to remind me of my times. 144 was sitting from, do I know when to do what? So why are you telling me? John, what nonsense were you talking about? He said after Andy left. In this matter, they had also become somewhat silent in 2 months. Because you are a mean person. And you are washed with milk? Andy was freaking out. I am milk washed. I had never seen it from that point of view. J was written in my name. I was looking at him in the mirror, sir. It should be strong in every case. If he considers himself low, and if he does not consider himself right, then he should have confidence in him to face everyone. John said that he was right, but his manner was bad. They had also made him realize, and he was left with a careless shrug. While he was sorry that now he will be asked to apologize to Andy, but he too did not see anyone. Andy became faster than before. To my fiancé, to John Bai's sister-in-law. I didn't have to. It is known that he married a millionaire in Kuwait, considering you unworthy. You are trying to change the subject by prying, now John said, shaking with anger. Let's just go do your job. I will come now, he said and left. Andy had returned at 9 o'clock at night. I know what I have to do. Not afraid to confront people because of his cynical thinking. John S. style was insulting. Colonel David was worried that both were fighting equally, and he took the side of one of them and explained it to the other. It was time for people to eat, and today was Sunday. Andy had brought ice cream, and Roman had also made biryani, kheer, and koftas. After a long time, the colonel, along with Andy, was worried about where he had left. The colonel was expecting him to admit his mistake and was asking him about it. Why didn't he come back? When I called him, his mobile was in the room. Now Andy was sitting silently, so he will call here and there. But he was quite satisfied. Well, do you want to enjoy listening to my mouth? By doing this, you have developed the limit of your thinking like your brother and have access to the market, and you have come to be a bearer of high thinking and principles. Any stupid thoughts? What do you think we should eat? John to come, he said with surprise, seeing his disinterestedness. He will not come now, or he will eat from somewhere outside. Why are you beating my brother? Talk to me, Nab was torn from John. I do not consider you worthy to talk. Then why will I talk to you? Andy said after getting up and went out. John careless. Still they wait for some time. He said he was also sitting. At 10 o'clock, John had come and went straight to the room. The colonel called out, 146. Say yes, he said to Carol while glancing at Andy sitting next to him. Later, a few days before the wedding, the city had come to cause power loss. With great insistence, he was still in the city. He was going back today. Those people were just coming from the office that he had come. Where have you been for so long? We wait for food. Well, I'm coming. Roman had gone inside, saying, "Put food." Colonel David had confirmed the tickets for you guys. I came to give them. Jack and his sister will also come. These are 5 tickets. Tomorrow I will wait for you guys at the train station. Then we will leave together in the morning. Then we will go to the village as soon as we can get the idea by 6 o'clock in the evening. That's why no one stops there. He was standing in front of them with his eyes lowered so they could not see the red in his eyes. Andy had noticed, and now Bill's complacency had left for some time, and he was clearly looking restless. They both sat at the table, and he hadn't come yet. See what he needed. We will come by ourselves, said the colonel hesitantly. But John had got the tickets and promised to come. He was going with some friends in his personal car. He could reach the destination directly, but for these people, he was going to California, and from there he would take them to his village. He had left after drinking tea. Andy immediately got up and went to Kern's room. They also reached close to his door. "John, what's up, man?" "Nothing, I'm coming, go you?" There was a heaviness in his voice. "Look at me." Andy held her face in his hands and lifted her up. "Can you pack your corner clothes?" Roman had asked Colonel, and he was left looking at Al Andy. "Let's eat," he said while looking down. Now Andy's restraint was answered. "It's a 3-day wedding. It's very hot. I have not been there either, but I have heard that it is very hot and very cold there," said John, and he shook his head and left. "Forgive me, man, please." He was brought to her. Now there was silence inside for a long time when someone tapped on his shoulder with a finger. It was Roman. He indicated that he should come back. Both returned to the table and sat down. After some time, both of them had recovered, and now their eyes were red. Main row, it was completely normal. They were surprised, but were earning. After this kind of quarrel, they thought that I would have to have the baby delivered. But everything was fine with the second pregnancy, and now it's been a month. I will also take off my clothes. Andy also got up, and the colonel said, looking at John, "A few days ago, Andy was not willing to go. Yes, but he was not understanding me and what I said. There is no room for that kind of sentimentality in our work I was trying to convey to him. And by saying bad things to G, it was said to me. What he was doing was hearing him tell Azar to prepare the galaxy. He and Andy thought of this today." "Did you understand?" Colonel had asked. Andy was feeling sick inside, whatever he thought about it. He was also embarrassed to think that you were angry because of his mistake. "But sir, where will we get the time for all these things? It is up to the people to remember this. Take this to heart. Think about it and react. Yes, it is the work of Kabul traders to do as a case starts and ends. This is exactly how such an emotional period should begin and end. Then even thinking about it comes under the category of character and personal weakness for us," he had openly explained, and he was also lost in thought. Was telling to go with him because his sister's ticket was also taken, and he was laughing by planning ahead. On the second day, his departure was by train at 6 o'clock in the morning. Azar was seen in the galaxy's place with Amelia, who approached Colonel David with the child as they approached. "Hello," Daddy said, and bowed his head to receive love. He had a smile on his lips. Giggle could not stop his spontaneous laughter. She was standing like that till she put her hand on his head. Then she went to Andy shyly, who was looking at both Azar and John with devouring eyes. "John said to do this nonsense," he said with a wave of his hand. John had gone to find the compartment. "And if this toy cries in the night, I will shoot myself," he said angrily. He remembered the time spent with his aunt. What nonsense is this? Colonel David used to feel that he was also a child in front of him. Indeed, when the shroud was tied on the head for the protection of the country, then what is the use of going back to the past emotional periods and wasting the undertones of life? He was right. Nothing is impossible. So why? Don't just look forward, learning from mistakes, fighting with an inner passion, getting acquitted in the court of his hardened mind, and getting rid of all kinds of temptations was actually his victory. And maybe that's why John thought everything by himself. He used to do it, and even if it was proved to be wrong, once he admitted his mistake, he would not even doubt it again. That is what I said, and that timer could have been off. John did not tell you, Jack told you with satisfaction. He expected that Krish would object, but he was relieved that he was now ready to be a part of this game. What John had not told? Andy had asked Sadi. John was returning after looking for Hoagie. Andy was facing the front, and he was coming from behind. Not only this, but also feed your complaints to your aunt, along with me. I was, and when you would throw them both out, she would go to her aunt and cry, but no tears would come out. Now they will also come out. I have updated it. It may take a needle down its throat, which it will later throw out of storage on its own. In addition, its programs are often updated. You will see. Was given. Till sometime later they were sitting in the train. This compartment was reserved for them, and they were all talking to each other, when Amelia got up from his place and called Andy to hold the 6 while extending it. Aji, just hold him. I will give him breakfast, tea to Daddy and brother-in-law. Involuntarily, Andy had taken the baby in his lap and turned to Azer again, and was left drinking blood. Was all three of them were smiling, and Jack's smile was mischievous, but he was shocked to see John. He also had a smile on his face, but a strange look was visible. He was shocked. He remembered his trip to Los Angeles. The same expression was on John's face at that time as well. He had come back from the mouth of death. Following Andy's eyes, Azar also thought, and he was also shocked. Now Colonel David was with him. Both of them leaned forward and told him the situation, and they started looking at him with concern. It was because of the colonel that he had controlled himself. Otherwise, horror is his. What was I supposed to do? His program's ass idiot, he makes you dance like monkeys, and you dance. Now the citizens will ask where it was earlier, and from where it has been revealed. And who will operate the remote control? He said angrily and helplessly. I don't run remote anymore. AG, when I went to my mother's house for the delivery of the child, you had forgotten me. It was said very sweetly, and people passing by were jealous of Andy Fortune. Who makes whom dance like monkeys? John had asked from behind with Cooley. Andy color was blown, and before anyone could answer, he was told a brilliant lie by BG had gone. And while they are talking about the Marwar port, he dances like a monkey with Colonel David. Andy Dumbodara. Saw from what happened to my son? The colonel had asked him. He stared blankly in shock. Nothing. I'm fine. His voice sounded as if he had spoken in his sleep. Andy was again giddy with the thought of some supernatural power overpowering him. How are you shaping it? John picked up the goods. It's good. How long will it take to get ready? John. I will not build the shape. It will be fitted with custom masks, and it is a more advanced and high-power project than both of them. It will take a long time now. Some parts have been ordered from outside, and they are still taking time to arrive. A detailed answer. Amalia had put the sandwich taken from the market on paper plates and served them to everyone, and after that, she also made tea. Jack had also prepared food for 2 o'clock, and Roman from the north also. He got it. Syrian kebabs and chapatis were prepared for the journey. The three of them were staring at John at home from time to time. He was trying to remain calm, but in this struggle, he was not addressing anyone. When Andy said while getting up from his seat and sitting next to him, and fell down and died. Later, her fellow nurse said that she used to shout like this often. The first time it was during the day, otherwise after about a couple of days. It used to come once at night. Then again, they anxiously wanted to know everything about what he had to say. Have a headache? Come on, he was lying down with his head on her chest. Colonel David had watched very carefully. His eyes felt like he was dreaming while awake. Only then Jack bowed to them and said, he said that the solar eclipse that happened on that day and date was one that happens once in 600 years. If there were 100 people born at that time, surely 10 of them would have the power to foretell the coming time. The sixth sense is also incredibly sharp and easy for the invisible force to overpower, but they cannot harm them in any way. You will remember that even this time, the doctors were saying that he was perfectly fine and healthy, both mentally and physically. Only they could not understand the reason for his unconsciousness. We're done. The father of the church in Los Angeles had said about him that he was born on a particular day and date, Azar remembered the whole thing and told me what had happened and what he had said and why. The colonel was worried because of this. He looked very happy and satisfied till he left the house. After boarding the train, his changing condition was immediately in front of them. Yes, Dr. William had told me the same thing, that he did not understand the reason for prolonged fainting. Looked carefully. After John left, they had a good idea why he had finally left them with the two of them. Jack described in detail the events of the day, from the train onwards. He had not talked to Andy before, and had also seen that video. Father asked him the date of birth when he was unconscious, and Andy started crying because of worry. Then he asked the date of the moon, which was given to the teacher over the phone by John, and was found in his father's diary. The date was in the month of March, and the day was Friday. This was also written in his diary. And another incident, that there was an eclipse of the sun during his birth, and a nurse who was an angel was afraid to see him and was screaming towards the lands. Andy, on the other hand, was asking him, "John won't tell me? What happened to you? I can't even understand, man, since the train started moving. I have a feeling something is very wrong, and it's so intense that it's killing all the thoughts and all the feelings." John rested his head on his knee. God will fix everything. John walks back from the next station. Worry and fear in Andy's voice was prominent. He took them with him and went outside. "No, I want to see what the problem is. I won't go back. Andy, or did you take me for granted?" he asked Andy awkwardly, and he nodded his head helplessly, looking at the colonel, who was already looking at him worriedly. "Hear me, pick up my bag." A very melodious voice filled Oliver's ears. He was shocked. So far, he had not seen this Sophia with a very beautiful baby in her arms. She looked like she was 18 years old, but she was taking care of the child just like a mother. He looked questioningly at the colonel. Seeing this, he forgot to speak. Such an apocalyptic beauty, and that too in simplicity, was not seen even by a media person like him. So he was left speechless. On reaching California, they all got off the train, but Oliver was not there. John was starting to look like a completely insensitive person, who can neither hear nor speak. Andy was looking at Colonel David again and again, as if he was helping both of them to unload and put down the luggage in a mechanical manner. "There is still time. Let's go back." He was thinking the same. "This is Andy's bride, and this is Andy's son. Jack's sister did not come, so we brought her," John said in this expressionless way. "Oh, Andy brother never even called for marriage. Masha Allah, baby is very cute. Citizens do not exist." "I was thinking, John, why don't we go back?" the colonel had asked John. "Well, congratulations, brother. We were orphans, so Andy had married us in the mosque." "He has," Oliver said with an expressionless face while looking at the front. They were surprised that there was no one behind. Rather, there was no one at the gate. Very few people were present at the station at that time. It was the Zephyr train. It was beyond the reach of ordinary people to travel in it. Therefore, only those people were among those who got off. They looked back at John, and then Jack said in shock, "I did not meet you when I came. I was staying at Andy's on side with the child. That's why there are all men here. Both I and Mia were very happy. Yes, since you came, there is no small child in our family for a long time. There are many married couples, but all of them are childless." It was done. The colonel looked back and saw Oliver alone. He was shocked. Was he inspired? A man was sitting on the driver's seat of the elder Dean. It should be given to the child as long as it is growing, which Andy accepted and gave in his lap. "Dear Mr. Henry, I actually took my friends on the bus going to the village on the way. Thank you very much, you guys. Come, Sir Uncle, he would be crazy with happiness." The house of Oliver turned out to be a huge mansion. Had said, "Yes, John will change his clothes after bathing, and his health will be refreshed." Colonel held him in the arms and said, "Was around which there were lands, and they all belonged to him." Oliver's father had greeted Colonel David by kissing his hand, and I don't know why almost the whole family came out after the arrival of Amalia and Andy, and all of them were holding Andy in their laps. Oliver's mother was also among them. 50-60 guests were present in the entire mansion. But there was a completely silent atmosphere. As soon as they came, it seemed that it was a marriage house. After some time, Andy and his wife were given a room by another Colonel Andy, and Jack had already arranged this. Because more guests were expected, there was a small room for Jack and his sister, and the ancient balcony room, facing the backfield of the mansion, was given to the other three wives. Andy was so confused he was made for men with John. The answer was that Andy and he wanted to stay while this room was located on the lower floor, and they were in the upper room. Colonel David had consoled him. They did not understand why these people were so happy, but they also came to the room in a state of indecisiveness. Despite the fatigue of the journey, they were restless to see John walking around. "Well," he said now. There was emotion in his voice, and he was looking at the colonel from the army. Then went to bath. After his arrival, the colonel had gone to take a bath, and Amelia and Andy entered the room from behind and sat down. Andy was looking at John with a smile that was opening on the mobile phone. Krill came out. Amalia got up and went to the bathroom. Amalia got up and washed the clothes of the three and put them in the balcony. John asked Andy while sitting straight, "Where is your son? Everyone has it. I'm tensioned that they don't recognize it." Andy was getting worried. "Can't recognize Andy, brother. Worry. I call back now." Jack gave him a remote control and pressed a button with the other, and in no time a woman left, leaving behind a crying child. "There is no problem with you, Colonel David?" Oliver's father had asked while coming in after knocking. "What happened to John's son?" "Sit down." He got up and held it. He rolled his eyes and saw them and rested his head on his chest. His eyes were bloodshot and his face was red. There was still numbness. He did not say anything. He had calmed down. Was they tightly wrapped the hawks around him? "Oh no, we are comfortable." They offered him a chair and he sat down. Then he took out 2 wads of 10000 notes from his pocket and gave them to Amalia and Andy. Andy said, very embarrassed, "John, you should change your clothes. Hot water is coming in the room." Jack came out of the bathroom. "Big sir, please, there is no need for this. You can keep it and return the money from both of them." They took it and extended it towards them. He suddenly burst into tears. They were all stunned. Andy had given the money to Amalia and told him to go with the seller, and also instructed him to turn off the light and close the door of the room, that no one should go to or near the child in his absence. "I will give it. Keep my number," he will cry. "Then I will take it. You will not be worried." They were now downstairs in the dining room. There was a free table and 2 men and women were eating together. After the meal, there was tea time. They all started to go to the room. Then the colonel took them to the corner and locked the door of his room. That old lock was such that it could not be opened from inside, even after getting the key. Only the key is required. Contrary to expectation, the citizens provided the key without asking any questions. After coming to the room, John came in after standing outside in the balcony for some time. The colonel locked the door and kept the key under the pillow, and those people went to sleep. Azar and the colonel were lying quietly till John fell asleep. Then they both fell asleep. "What happened? Why are you crying?" The question was asked by Mime, but he seemed to know the answer. The colonel looked at him in shock. There was no suspicion of the anxiety of some time ago, but he did not seem calm to them. Andy was also in the same situation. He was silently looking at her as if he was searching for the image of John. "Unfortunately for our family, we have not had any children for the last 10 years. So there are couples among my brother's children who are newly married, but all are childless. All our ears here were eager to hear the voice of the innocent child. I am very worried that my only son will also have children." He was sitting holding his head. Everyone else was watching him silently. It was then that Oliver came to call for food. On the second day, when he got up for the morning prayer, John was also awake and was attentively listening to the call to prayer. The colonel had gone to perform ablution, and on his return, he saw Jack lying on his dummy near his bed. He was also praying and had put his feet aside. He was praying without feet. He was 6 feet tall with feet, and at that time he looked a little less than 4 feet. It was the first time in such a long time that the colonel had seen Azar like this, and he was very sad. He was so beautiful and so capable. But even he did not let it be felt that he had so poorly got up and prayed, and now he was asking them to go out and take a walk. They nodded and saw Azar, who seemed to be back to sleep. Both of them had gone out, and Andy was near the door. "Sister-in-law, and where is Mina?" he asked, and everyone realized that he was looking for the child. Andy said, smiling, had said, "He has slept, and his mother also eats what we had taken him to eat. He wakes up in the middle of the night and starts crying, and I told him clearly from the room along with his mother. It is given by him. Good and Mia was asking to make a video call to see Andy. I talked at night. When I asked him, Colonel said, it was also followed. His direction was towards the 3 or 4 rough-hewn houses at the back of the mansion. It was of the door, and an ill-fated man was seen standing in front of the door of a house. I was wondering if someone else could say that the door was opened by the Colonel with a key that night. Was Andy had seen him with gratitude while passing in front of Andy's room after selling me. When those people went outside, Andy also joined them. They saw many women of the family. I am John. I have come from San Francisco to attend Oliver's wedding. John and Amalia. She was giving the correct answer. After seeing these people, they have also talked with 4 Janans, and they all came near. He said in a tone that this is good. How did you come here? Oliver's 14-year-old sister also wants to attend her brother's wedding. Where is Oliver? The person was pale. Hello, Daddy. Good morning. She was standing with her head bowed. He had placed his hand on his head. Even after seeing him, he greeted and asked for breakfast. Let's take a bath from outside. I do not know where he is. From here he had closed the door, and John had smiled as if he had expected the same thing. Now he was heading towards the police station of the area. Mill was with him, and Andy had stopped there as per John's instructions. He stopped there and kept an eye on the front and back of the house. Minutes later he came with the police, and the policemen caught him, and the 3 of them returned. Now John was smiling again. On his return, he fell upon an Arsha and told him to walk earnestly to find him. My brother is going to get married today at 2 o'clock. After the marriage, they will stay there till night. In the night, Mehendi has been kept by the mother, so that those people come back soon. Yes, okay. Proceed as Colonel. We're gone. The beautiful sunshine of every morning was spreading now. John. He was walking on one side with lowered eyes. Both of them were imitating him without saying a word. She was the modest of the mansion. As he was walking, he got off the trail and was walking on the trail on the farm and started walking at his pace and stopped at a dry well. Now he was looking inside. Both of them were watching silently. He stood like that for about 10 minutes, and then he turned and slowly walked back down the trail. Both of them now. Amalia, you should take out the clothes of me and the Colonel and iron them, and you too will be ready with me. How come my brother-in-law Jack have not brought clothes? She said, taking out the clothes of all of them. Why, Jack? They didn't bring her clothes. What will she wear? He heard, and Andy was staring. What is it? Have you said the case? Andy said. It has already been said that Punch has driven the women home. The men had reached home after the marriage ceremony. Jane was dressed in a blue dress and looked very beautiful with makeup. For one, it was the beautiful face of Jack created by the makeup on it, was also left open for lack of A by paying C. At that time, men are men. So what does one mean? John said, Amaya says that Andy made a face from him, but he was very happy inside. Have to go? Azar asked worriedly. Mia brother was also looking at Amaya as a god. John had gone to Azos Karanjan and said something and had taken the baby from her lap and given it to Oliver's mother. Amalia had entered the house, and it was Indira Kelly. Everyone was there outside, all men and women. This house in the imagination was not very big. Arrangements were made for the women in the lawn of the house and for the men outside with the canopies. Even yesterday in the wedding hall, everyone has come from outside, but no one knows here, Andy said with concern. Monday he had hidden in the ignorance of all. What will happen now? Who has taken it? Azar's color flies. Had gone. Find it right here. We are going to have breakfast, John said and stepped outside. He was terribly scared. No, John brother, please find my Amalia. Entered inside and was looking around. Please give. He turned around and said on one condition. Colonel and Andy had gone. Azar nodded and told the condition. He agreed, and from the balcony, when John Alam asked, do you need anything? Yes, hot water for the baby's milk came here, but it is on this side that he guided. John Alam also entered behind him. After some time, Amalia had returned. Then till night the boy was tied to the rope and made to drink water. Then Andy went and got 3 pairs of heavy work stitched from the market on John's insistence. The Kurdish people were staying there after Isha, and they all left after Isha. Coming back, John and Jack took Dean to Kerr's balcony, and after a long time they returned. Kerr sat and Andy were very happy. Because John was very happy, he also danced with Mir Jane, and during that time Andy took care of him. Jack and Oliver, his friends, etc., had also changed history. Even though Andy wanted to, his heart was broken. This was a village and all the bazaars opened in the morning. They used the money given by Tabriz's father. At 2 o'clock in the afternoon, those people had left for Oliver's house in 2 coasters and 10-12 vehicles. The marriage had already taken place. But father had said that there is a difference between the marriage of a child and an adult. They should marry again. What is the meaning of their story today? Kak was a brother, that he was a brother. There are no dairies in John brother-in-law, and you are my Gar and Andy. That's why I tell you the same. Oh, thank goodness I knew that John had done it. When Colonel David took the child in his arms and gave him an opportunity to measure it too, adding to their game, and he, along with the entire jinn, met Amalia. They had because he was her husband every year. Real Jab Jack had alerted them, and they sat down handling him like a human being. While coming back from the balcony, she had gone with the chain and was comfortably busy with me. At the door like yesterday, but they had closed the door and none of them had objected as they were still awake while sleeping. Andy was also tired of dancing. As soon as Amalia came, he also locked the door from inside. No, it's not like that. You misunderstood. She smiled and gave it, and Andy was holding her. And suddenly Jack heard her from behind, and she was away from China. Even though he had done it, he was shocked. This cricket reacts by observing the feeling that you had grasped in your hand somewhere. Thank you. I heard your conversation, Jack had. Sweat dry and that badly. He was ashamed. The procession had left before the sunset and had returned. Mia, brother, and some other guests also came along. Ceremony was a day later. After Isha, everyone went to rest in their rooms. Azar had stopped Andy in his room, and now all 3 of them were sitting with laptops in front of them. Andy, room attendant, was connected with Amalia Eyes. The light was burning, and she was sitting with the child in her lap. She had not changed her clothes. When the door was slowly opened, and Jan Alam had looked inside, Amalia smiled and looked at him, and the child was placed on the side and got up. The second day was a holiday, and the marriage took place at 2 o'clock in the morning. Today, John ordered Amalia to get ready by wearing a red outfit. And when she came out ready, for the first time, a prayer came out from the depths of Andy's heart. Every art was a teacher. It didn't happen. John and the Colonel L were automatically mastered or fed by Jack in her memory that she was present for everything from clothes, shoes, food and drink, to all of them. At that time, he was forced by his eyes because the heart and mind knew its truth well. You are looking very beautiful. If these were dreams, he told Amalia, if they become reality, I will consider myself the luckiest person in the world. She came near him. My beautiful princess doesn't even ring a bell with this guy. He was a drunken thief. Everyone was in their own rooms. He had been drinking alcohol secretly, and now he has it in himself. That, it was shy in a very human way. Why are you saying who told me this? I cried and said, match. Scholar, I will tell everyone what you have done to me. Amalia fingered Jack Will. Then what happened? Where did she go now? I had strangled him and brother-in-law. Yeah, had said by beating her. You are right. They don't like me either. I am an orphan, yes, she said sympathetically, and she looked even more beautiful than before. We can kill you. All you can do is talk. He had buried his father's land to jump into the well. That's why the well was dry. Everyone thought that someone had kidnapped him for money. But then they were tired of searching for him. I burnt his bag and all the other belongings. There is police. You also have a wife. Hey, If you say so, I will deliver it to him today. No, no, what kind of things are you talking about? There was no clue either. Wow, you are great. And who were the other 4 girls? She was one of my uncle's cousins, and she also recognized me and said that I would get married to her. The third, the fourth, they were small, not everyone, so they were in the head. Now come to me, I will tear your child's legs and throw them away. He had reached near the child and picked him up suddenly. Jack was at the top and Jack reached his room with John, but when they got there, nothing was there except a pile of ashes. You will know that no one writes so bravely. It was a joke. Hey, you know how far we have gone. The style was definite and infuriating. Others she came close and went away again and again, and she was addicted to drugs. He was annoyed. I have killed 5 girls. One of them was her sister, whose wedding you have come to attend, you bird. I love young girls like you. No, lie, he has no sister. She came into his outstretched arms and then went away. Her striking figure in a red dupatta with bangles and piles was what seemed to be a machine. Time was completely under his control. At that time, his sister was 14 years old, very beautiful. The child was next to the fetus and ashes were flying at his feet. Both of them were left in shock. Amalia, you wrapped these ashes in your hands. The gutters of the room. Azar's voice was heard from behind me, and John thought that the child's control and remote was Jack. It was a girl. I picked him up while coming back from school through one of my men, who lives next to this mansion. I was taken from brother-in-law, and in his own house she recognized me. If she didn't recognize me, I would have left her alive. But she recognized me and took my name. Jack Yu. Why is it that no one had found the sister of John Oliver? He must have been patient for his daughter. Now what will be gained by starting this story again? Just deleted it is enough. You would have done the same. He didn't seem like a bully. I handed him over to the police. I had taken it, and today the child was also very mature and in the mood to talk, which are in doing, and was constantly controlling. Andy was also with Amelia. Mia was taken by his family. What is the matter with the guest? Therefore, Breeze was showing him the house at the request of the other. When the roof of the house was closed, he must have been secretly drinking alcohol there that night. He had done so much. In the night, Oliver and John went to the office of Oliver to pick up League Mia. John did not show any concern about these thieves and even the hands of Crux. Everyone was happy. They had returned early because of the distance. Amalia wore a golden maxi for the wedding ceremony. It was given by Oliver's mother. He was so looking forward to wearing it. But it seemed good that one of his words, Jack asked what was the reason. I only asked Nazari's father to keep it in Kuro. I was not able to think at that time. I could hear a voice from within, and I was meeting with him saying he felt ironic that he had managed to get rid of a stature. He started breathing while sitting on the bed. There will be no one in the police station at that time. Jabin, change clothes and come with me, Azar had said because she had thrown the ashes and returned after flushing. She shook her head and started taking out her clothes. All 3 of them came out. They were ridden down from the balcony and got down. After that, he reached Holy Kibat station. But the soldiers had reached the police station. There, a soldier and the inspector was sick, and brother-in-law was alone in the jail. He was also sleeping. Jack had given Amalia a cloth soaked in chlorine and form. He had sniffed both of them while they were sleeping and made them faint. Then Majabin broke the lock with an electric shock, took it out, and hung it inside the same well, and gave the same shock as it was given to Yanalam through the child. He was burnt to ashes without making a sound, and the ashes fell into the well. They were all back. Yes, John Andy had forgotten everything, and said seeing him sacrificing himself. Daddy is saying that you will go back today or after Oliver Child's shower. She turned her finger and said shyly. On the second day there was a break, and on the second day there was a feast. No one was particularly worried about Yanalam. It seemed that in all their joys and commotions, no one had noticed that they were nowhere. Further, Amalia took the management into his own hands in the best way possible. Who considers this a robot in his? He held his hand. In the next moment, Andy jumped and was standing at the door 3 miles away, at the feet of John, Colonel, and Jack. Jack took out his mobile phone and showed it to him. I had unlocked and texted all these things on his wife's number, which he confessed and also wrote that he is the murderer of Oliver's sister. But when Oliver came to know about it in his life, the sister's life has been and still won't come back, and also divorced his wife. After finishing the conversation that if he wants to marry someone else, Jack threw the mobile phone out of the window of the train and it fell on him. You held hands jokingly, brother of Darmumsi. It was a defensive shock. If you thought anything wrong, you would have taken 2 or 3 shocks and become still. Andy, what happened to my brother John? But Andy did not move. While Azar stood up with a smile on his face, he chewed happily. Hey, look what happened to him? Now Colonel David also said, staring at Jack. He bent down and spoke. Defensive shock is just to push away. It was fed and you are her husband. He was so shocked. Now go 8. I know. Nothing does anything to you. I did not do it with the remote. John was also listening bent. He stepped back and asked Amalia to hold him by the neck and make him stand up. Come on, this problem has also been solved. Now let's marry Andy. This is also our duty, the colonel said while looking at John and Jack. No, yes, not at all. John